Hi, how are you feeling today? Hopefully wonderful. My name is Adam E. Stewart, also known as Malcolm Lovejoy, Mindbender Supreme, or Love Monger. So, I was getting into Chivalry-Now, the Code of Male Ethics, and we had read 12 trusts in our last video. I thought I'd get into trust number 6, honor and respect women, because it's something that specifically, applies to half the planet, and it's something that the other half of the planet could always get a little better at doing. So, let's get into it, and I hope you enjoy, I hope you learn, I hope you disagree, I hope you feel something, and I hope that we can have a nice conversation and make the world a better place. Trust number 6. I will honor and respect women and refute sexism in all its guises. Chivalry-Now reflects the pedigree of its medieval sources by including a special recognition of women as one of its 12 trusts. This is broken down into 2 very different principles, each as important as the other: respect for the person and respect for the female gender as a whole. The first is simple and obvious. We are called to respect all people, no matter what gender, race, or ethnicity. Martin Luther King explained it best when he told us to judge people according to the content of their character. Perfect. That means respecting each person as a unique individual. Challenging, but valuable. Prejudice is a strange, nonsensical phenomenon that contradicts common sense. In our relationships amongst men, we know firsthand that no 2 men are alike. We easily take that as a given. That is obviously true of women as well, and other genders. This book is basically breaking down genders into men and women, but here and there I will include other genders because I recognize other genders. And I feel like you should too. We take it easily that as a given. That is obviously true of women as well. It is wrong to group people according to stereotypes. It steals away their individuality and blocks our own recognition of truth. Every woman, like every man and person, has good points and bad, strengths and weaknesses, individual tastes and interests. They deserve to be recognized for such and measured for who they are and not some dismissive stereotype. This does not mean that generalized gender differences do not exist and should not be recognized. No. A lot of individual diversity can be found in both genders and sexes, with considerable overlap in each, with all people. The traditional boundary lines between gender roles have largely been erased. In the name of freedom and equality, that is a good thing, despite certain cultural tremors. This breaking of confinement, however, does not eliminate gender differences. Dr. Gray's popular series based on Men Are From Mars and Women Are From Venus points out many of these differences, inferring that the different cultural perspectives of the genders make them seem like they are from different planets. That we need to prove this today points to the hypersensitivity of political correctness in recent decades. Guilt for past transgressions and ones that still persist has resulted in an intellectual hesitation. For real. No one wants to be labeled a sexist or a racist, or other words and judgments that have come up in the modern age. And this has spawned a certain measure of fear and timidity. While this is understandable, fear and timidity are enemies of truth. Not recognizing that gender differences exist may be the strangest prejudice of all. Everywhere we look, the differences show themselves. At parties, men tend to drift into groups of other males discussing their interests in their own particular ways. Women tend to drift into groups of females and discuss very different topics. This is a generality, of course, but one we commonly see to various degrees. We also see shelves in bookstores loaded with books on women's issues, while books on male issues rarely outnumber a handful. Magazines cater to issues that are gender-based, and the results are quite astounding. For men, they are based mostly on sports and sex. For women, they include a wide range of everyday interests, fashion, and repetitive advice. While one can argue that these tendencies reflect a certain amount of sexism, their popularity is telling. Differences do exist. Complicated, sad, true, yes. At one time, traditional career paths between men and women were more defined and restricted than they are today. Despite the tearing down of employment barriers, these tendencies still exist. Most construction workers are men. Most social workers are women. The military is predominantly male. Office workers are predominantly female. Times are changing, but, times are not changing as fast as minds are. That is something that I think we have to kind of accept, as complicated as it is. Fashion sense is clearly a cultural phenomenon, but one that the genders take seriously. Studies show that men and women tend to think differently as well. It is said that men think more objectively, while women employ more of an intuitive subjectivity. Both have great value, and the species is stronger for having them. Certain physical and child-raising instincts differ, as might be expected because of nature's influence in procreation. Sexual interest recognizes obvious differences. Even homosexuality is based on differentiated preferences. And, yes. In nature, amongst 1,000 separate species, gender differences are obvious and well documented. That's the part that I really like that was expressed here. But also, there are very much in nature gender differences that are far beyond the typical male and female paradigm, and I think that humans do poorly when they forget that that applies to humanity as well. I digress. We recognize their value and are amazed at their symbiotic creativity. We all know these facts, yet our fear of being branded as sexist makes us shy away from them. Is it right to do this? Or are we basing our differences and decisions on just a different form of sexism, one that refuses to recognize differences because they are viewed with different value? Does sexism lie at the heart of our timidity and denial? This is one of the reasons why the Sixth Trust tells us to refute sexism in all its guises. In our desire to fight the good fight, we have become mindful of sexist tendencies we might not be aware of. There is a difference between equality and homogeneity. Men and women are equal because they represent two valid and necessary genders of the same human race. Whatever generalized differences that exist should not place them in critical competition. True. The success of our species depends on them both. And all. Everyone included. For the most part, these differences are complementary, but not necessarily exclusive. Each gender exhibits traits of the other. Always something that's good to remember. Sometimes it is just a statistical matter of proportion. Nevertheless, to deny these tendencies is to deny simple truth. The second principle, respecting the female gender as a whole, makes absolute sense to the man of chivalry. That humanity expresses itself in two separate and complementary genders, and other genders beyond the primary two, it is right for each to appreciate the other, and those beyond, thereby better enabling a positive partnership. It is quite as simple as that. We can refer to this as transpersonal respect. This is where chivalry asserts that proper courtesy should be exhibited by men towards women. It does not articulate how women should respond in return. As a male ethic, it would not be appropriate. Women have every right to decide their own ethics for themselves. Fair enough. Unfortunately, chivalric courtesy towards women has been disparaged as of late by women who incorrectly translate any hint of preferential deference as an insult, and men who are afraid of being regarded as sexist. Complicated. Here we find ourselves in a serious dilemma. Courtesy towards women lies at the heart of chivalry and has always been so. To those who own just a superficial idea of this code of ethics, such courtesy is what chivalry is all about. Mention the word, and one immediately thinks of opening doors for ladies, a constant focus of discussion and dissension. Some of our companions defend themselves by saying that they open doors for both sexes, as if courtesy towards women by itself was something questionable. How should today's chivalry respond to this? Can it recognize and honor gender differences without being charged with inherent sexism? Or has feminism caused and hypersensitive political correctness made this impossible? Oh, it says and, but it says has feminism, or has feminist caution and hypersensitive political correctness made this impossible? Oops. Let's go into that. To start with, as men, we need to recognize women's humanities as individuals first, who, like all of us, have their own unique characteristics. Absolutely. Permanently. Perpetually. It is plain to see that most women are complex, intelligent, and compassionate persons, deserving of our respect and friendship. They are not perfect, and it is wrong to expect them to be. As individuals, they are not put on this earth to cater to the needs or preferences of men, for real. That they differ from males should not be seen as a source of contention, keep that in mind, but as something that offers tremendous possibilities for partnership and education. Individual differences have to be respected as well. Not every woman is right for partnership with every man. Not every man is right for every woman, and not every person is right for every other person beyond man or woman identities. What could be more apparent than that? Partnership demands compatibility and a certain amount of negotiation. Each partner's perspective should be a valid concern for them both. Some women, as it is true for some men, might not deserve respect. This sentiment should come only after suitable judgment can be made, never as a prejudgment. Respectful, courteous communication begins the process of acquaintance, and opinions naturally form from there. So that's a good 10 minutes into honor and respect women. I thought we would stop at the 10-minute point and, reflect upon that. I feel it. I dig it. I'm down with it. How do you feel? What do you think? This obviously applies to all humanity, though, so keep that in mind. Men, women, trans, non-binary, and just people that are beyond that. I bless you all. I love you all. I care for you all. And hey, as I said, not everybody deserves respect, but I might not respect them, but I hope that life respects them and the world respects them while I walk my own path the other way. Peace and chivalry.